The stars over Earth looked calm, but the silence beneath them was anything but peaceful. For years, the galaxy had tried to make Earth answer. The Council sent diplomats, probes, and messages, but Earth never spoke back. No one knew if humanity was dead, hidden, or planning something. The other empires laughed at first, calling humans weak. They thought Earth had broken itself after the wars of the past, but then the scouts stopped coming back. One ship after another disappeared the moment it crossed the invisible line around Earth. Still, the Council ignored it, because silence was easier than facing fear. On the bridge of a scout cruiser, Captain Varel stared at the blue planet through the main window. "Strange," he whispered. "No defense signals, no transmissions. Nothing." His second officer leaned closer, her eyes narrowing. "It's too quiet," she said. "This doesn't feel right," Varel nodded. He had seen war zones, but never a silence that felt alive, like the air itself was holding its breath. "Bring us closer," he ordered. The ship glided toward orbit, smooth and steady, but as the distance closed, every sensor on board went blank. The crew scrambled, tapping screens, rewiring panels. "Captain!" an engineer shouted. "We're losing everything, navigation, scans, communications." Varel felt a chill spread down his spine. It wasn't failure. It was something jamming them, something strong. A faint vibration passed through the hull. It was soft at first, like a heartbeat. The lights flickered. The officer at the radar whispered, "We're not alone." Outside the ship, the black of space began to shift. Something massive moved in the dark, at first hidden like shadows against the stars. Then another shape appeared, and another, and another. Huge silhouettes, too smooth, too controlled to be rocks, slid through the darkness without sound. "Contact command." Varel shouted, but the comms stayed dead. His second officer's voice cracked. "They're surrounding us." The bridge filled with flashing warning lights. Their ship was caught like a mouse between lions. The crew tried to turn back, but the engines stalled. The shadows moved with slow, terrifying precision. One of the young pilots whispered, "Sir, what if this isn't debris?" Varel clenched his jaw. "It's not debris," he said. His voice was steady, but inside he was shaking. He had seen fleets before, but never anything like this. These ships were old but alive, silent but deadly, and their presence felt like a trap closing. A sudden flash lit the sky, a single line of light stretching across their viewport. It wasn't a weapon. It was a signal, a frequency unknown to any database. A voice followed, deep and calm, echoing through the dead comms. "You shouldn't have come." The crew froze. No language module had translated it, but every single one of them understood it. It wasn't a warning, it was a statement. The shadows began to move closer, revealing smooth, black warships, hundreds of them. Their hulls absorbed the starlight, making them look like living darkness. The alien crew had no idea how many ships there were, because every time they counted, more appeared. It was like the planet had birthed an army in silence. "Prepare the escape drive," Varel ordered. His voice was louder now, almost desperate. "We need to warn the Council." But before they could engage the system, a massive warship passed over them. Its size blocked out half the sky. "It's not attacking," the radar officer whispered. "It's watching us." Varel didn't answer. He could feel it too, the cold stare of something that didn't fear them. The voice returned, lower this time, as if it was right inside their heads. "Leave, or be erased." The ship began to shake, as if invisible hands were pressing against it. Alarm screamed. Red lights flashed across the bridge. Varel gritted his teeth. "Activate emergency jump." Engines roared, panels cracked, and the scout ship tore away from orbit in a streak of light. When they finally escaped, the crew sat in silence. The stars were back, the sensors alive again. No one spoke for several minutes. Then the young pilot said softly, "They let us go." Varel looked at him with a pale face. "No," he replied. "They warned us." He turned to the recording screen. But there was nothing. All the data was gone. Wiped clean, no proof, no signal. Just silence again, back in the council chamber. Alien leaders shouted at one another, accusing, denying, panicking. Some said it was a trick. Others whispered about the warships. One old commander stood up and said, Silence is not weakness. His voice echoed through the room. Silence is the sound of something waiting far away. Above the blue planet, the dark fleet floated like a storm cloud. Unseen and silent, the humans hadn't spoken. Because they didn't need to, their message had already been delivered. The galaxy had ignored the silence for too long. Now it would learn to fear it. The council chamber was filled with noise. Voices rose like waves crashing against each other. Every empire was talking at once. Some shouted that Earth was hiding something. Others laughed nervously, pretending not to be afraid. No one wanted to be the first to admit what they had seen. Captain Varel's transmission was the only proof they had. And even that proof had vanished into nothing. Only his voice remained, shaky and broken, repeating the same words over and over. They're already here. Council Leader Serix slammed his hand on the table. Enough, he said. His voice was calm but sharp like glass. If this is true, then every moment we wait they grow stronger. A senator from the Thaun Empire leaned forward, his long eyes narrowing. Or it's a trick, he hissed. The humans are weak, always were. Their silence is their surrender. Not strength? A younger commander from another system shook her head slowly. Then explain the fleet, she said. Explain why no ship returns. For a moment, the chamber went quiet. It was not peace. It was fear wrapping itself around every throat. Outside the great glass dome of the council, stars glimmered coldly, far away and distant. The silence of space felt closer now, heavier. We send a second team, Serix finally said. Not scouts, but warships, the Thaun senator smirked. At last, action. But one voice rose from the shadows, deep and firm, and what if they don't want to talk? It was Admiral Kor, an old war veteran with scars across his face. He had seen battles most of them only read about. You've all forgotten what humans are, he said slowly. You've forgotten how fast they build, how hard they fight. If they've been silent this long, then they're ready. No one answered him, but many lowered their eyes, because they remembered the stories 1,000 years ago. The humans had fought wars that burned planets. They had built fleets out of nothing, and they had vanished not because they were weak, but because they chose to. Far away, in the dark of space, a small fleet of 6 alien destroyers approached Earth. Their engines hummed softly as they entered the shadowed zone, where signals disappeared. Commander Leth sat in the captain's chair of the lead ship, tapping his fingers on the armrest. This is simple, he said to his crew. They're bluffing, we go in, we scan, we leave, his navigator whispered. Sir, the first team said the same, Leth smirked. And maybe they got lost. The fleet pushed forward, and one by one, their signals faded from the council's tracking grid. Technicians shouted, trying to keep contact, but it was useless. We lost them, someone whispered in the control room. In the council chamber, the lights dimmed slightly, as if the stars themselves had held their breath again. On the destroyer's bridge, the darkness outside grew thicker. The stars vanished one by one, as if something was swallowing the sky. Where are the stars? The pilot whispered. Leth frowned. It's just interference. But his voice didn't sound sure anymore. On the radar, the screen flickered, and then came the shape. A black mass filled the display. Smooth and enormous, object ahead. The radar officer shouted, No, multiple objects! The crew stared through the viewing screen, and their hearts froze. Warships emerged from the darkness, like beasts waking from sleep. One ship, then 10, then 50. Their hulls gleamed black, reflecting nothing, moving in total silence. Pull back, Leth ordered quickly. Now! The engines roared, but the space around them bent like liquid. Their destroyers were not moving. Something had locked them in place. A single Terran ship appeared at the front, larger than their entire fleet combined. A light flared across its surface, and suddenly a voice spoke, not through comms, but inside their minds. Why do you keep coming? The voice asked, soft, almost calm. We warned you. Leth's breath caught in his throat. What are you? He whispered, but the voice didn't answer that. Instead it said, Leave, or vanish like the others. Every warning alarm screamed at once. Hull pressure spiked. Lights turned blood red. Leth shouted, Fire engines! But the engineer screamed back, They're not responding. Then just as fast as it had begun, everything stopped. The Terran ship turned, and the Black Fleet melted back into the shadows. The destroyers were free but not unharmed. All their systems were dead, drifting like ghosts. Back at the Council, the technicians gasped as the destroyers reappeared on the scanners. Their signals were weak, their engines cold. Commander Leth's voice came through the comms, cracked and shaking. "They let us live," he said. "But they're not bluffing, they're waiting." The chamber was silent again, not with arrogance, but with real fear. No one laughed this time. Admiral Kor leaned forward, his voice low. "Now you understand," he said. "The silence isn't emptiness." His eyes turned toward the blue planet glowing on the map. "The silence is a warning." Outside, in the cold night above Earth, the Black Fleet drifted like shadows tied to the stars. They didn't need to shout. They didn't need to fight. Just being there was enough to shake the galaxy. And the galaxy finally began to listen. The council chamber was colder that day. The golden lights on the ceiling seemed dimmer, as if the entire room felt the weight of something no one wanted to say. The reports from the Second Fleet played again and again on the main screen. Static and broken voices, no clear data, no images, only Commander Leth's final words. "They're waiting." Those two words burned through every mind like fire. No one dared to speak first, because everyone already knew what they were all thinking. Council Leader Sarek sat with his hands clasped tight. His voice was low. "We've been blind," he said, Admiral Kor. The oldest and calmest among them leaned forward. "No," he corrected. "You've chosen not to see." His scarred face carried no fear, only the kind of sharp focus that comes from old wars. "The humans were never gone," he continued. "They've been watching us, and we walked into their jaws like prey." A senator slammed his hands on the table. "Then we strike first," he said, "before they grow even stronger." A chorus of voices followed, some agreeing, some trembling. One diplomat shouted, "You're talking about starting a war with a ghost. We don't even know what they want." The Thaln senator hissed. "What they want doesn't matter. Their fleet is a threat, and threats must be crushed." Admiral Kor stood up slowly. His voice was cold. "And what will you crush them with? A fleet they can erase without firing a shot." His words hit the room like a blade. No one replied, because everyone had seen what happened to the destroyers. 6 ships entered, 6 dead shells returned, and still, humanity hadn't even shown its true power. "Then what do you suggest?" Sarek asked. Kor took a deep breath. "We do nothing." The chamber exploded in noise. Senators shouted. Commanders slammed their fists. "Do nothing?" Someone roared, "That's surrender!" Kor didn't flinch. "No," he said firmly, "that's survival." He looked at the glowing map of Earth. "They're not asking for war. They're warning us. And if we don't listen, the galaxy burns." Meanwhile, deep in the border system closest to Earth, a group of smugglers was making a different choice. Their ship, small and rusting, slipped through the shadows of space. Captain Rayna grinned as she leaned back in her chair. "All this fear over humans," she said to her crew. "I'll believe it when I see it," her partner chuckled. "Yeah, maybe they're just good at hiding." Their sensors beeped softly as they crossed the silent line around Earth's space. Everything felt calm, almost too calm. "Told you," Rayna said with a grin. Empty sky, but the grin faded fast when the stars started to disappear one by one. Captain," her partner whispered, "the scanners just died." Rayna frowned. "Reboot them." But they didn't reboot. The darkness outside grew thicker, pressing against the ship like an invisible storm. "Something's here," one of the crew said. Voice shaking, a shadow moved past their window. Slow and silent, then another larger, and then many more. Their ship was surrounded. Rayna's fingers tightened on the control panel. "No sudden moves," she whispered. Then a voice echoed through the ship, not through speakers, but inside their heads, calm and cold. "Turn back." Rayna froze. Her crew stared at each other. "Who said that?" Someone whispered. No one answered because everyone already knew. "We don't want trouble," Rayna said aloud. Even though she didn't know if they could hear her, the voice came again, deeper this time. "You brought it anyway." Lights flickered, engines died. Their little ship hung in darkness like prey in a spider's web. Then, without warning, all the ships around them lit up, revealing the black Terran fleet. Their hulls had no markings, no flags, only cold steel and shadows. Rena's heart pounded. "We can't outrun that," she whispered. "No one can." The fleet didn't fire. It didn't need to. One of the warships turned slowly, its massive cannons glowing with blue light. The message was clear. They didn't have to destroy them. Just show them what would happen if they didn't obey. Rena slammed her hand on the console. "Get us out of here!" The moment they reversed course, the fleet faded again into the dark, like it had never been there. Hours later, Rena's ship limped into a border station. The crew stumbled out pale and shaking. The station guards laughed when they heard the story, until they saw the burn marks on the ship, the fried systems, the black residue from Terran energy fields. "They're real," one guard whispered. Back at the council chamber, the news spread like fire. Not just soldiers now, not just scouts, but smugglers, merchants, travelers, all told the same story. The shadows, they said, the fleet. Every world felt the fear crawl closer. The idea of striking first was fading fast, replaced by a quiet, cold truth. Admiral Kor looked at Cyrix across the table. "They don't need to attack," he said softly. "They've already won," Cyrix swallowed hard, because deep down he knew the Admiral was right. Humanity hadn't moved an inch, and yet the galaxy was already on its knees. Above Earth, the Terran fleet floated in silence. The stars returned to their places. The shadows hid again, waiting, watching. Humanity didn't roar. Humanity whispered. And the galaxy trembled at the sound. The galaxy's night was restless. A storm without sound seemed to spread from the small blue planet that no one had dared to approach anymore. Every council ship that entered Earth's shadow came back broken, or didn't come back at all. Rumors were growing faster than truth, and fear was beginning to eat away at the walls of power. Across colonies, citizens whispered the same question. What are the humans building in the dark? In the great chamber of the council, the silence this time was heavier than ever. Leader Cyrix stared at the star map, his jaw tight. The image of Earth was glowing like a single blue eye in the middle of black space. Around it, small red markers blinked, representing the Council's failed fleets. No one dared to move closer anymore. "The rumors are spreading," a diplomat whispered. "Worlds are panicking. Armies are preparing without orders." Cyrix didn't look away from the map. "Then it has already begun," he said softly. Admiral Kor leaned forward, his hands folded behind his back. "They don't even need to fire a single shot," he said. "They're winning by fear." His words hit the room like a wave. And even the loudest senators had no answers. The Thalan senator finally broke the silence. "Then we need proof," he said sharply. "If the humans truly built a fleet this size, someone must see it. Someone must record it." Cyrix nodded slowly. "Then we send one ship." The room exploded in protest. "A suicide mission," one shouted. "No ship returns," another said. But Cyrix raised his hand. "We send a ship that won't run, far away in the black of space." A sleek vessel named Vigilant drifted through the stars. Captain Arlen stood at the front window, staring at the blue glow of Earth in the distance. His crew worked in silence, not because he ordered them to, but because they all knew what was waiting for them. "Still time to turn back," his navigator muttered. Arlen didn't turn. "We don't run from shadows," he said quietly. The ship crossed the invisible line, and like clockwork, the stars began to fade, one by one, like lights being snuffed out. "Shields up," Arlen ordered. His voice was calm, but the air was thick with tension. The scanners went blind, the comms died, and the temperature dropped a few degrees. "Here it comes," whispered the engineer. A massive shape slid out of the darkness, then another, then 100 more. They didn't make a sound, they didn't need to. The Terran fleet unfolded around Vigilant like black wings spreading. Arlen's breath caught in his throat. He had seen warships, he had commanded fleets, but nothing looked like this. "By the stars," his pilot whispered, "there's too many." Arlen didn't panic. He stepped forward, placing his hand on the comm panel, even though he knew it wasn't working. "This is Captain Arlen of the Vigilant," he said aloud. We are not here to fight, we only want to talk. For a long moment, nothing answered, then the darkness itself spoke. You keep coming, the voice said, cold and deep. You keep testing, the crew froze. It wasn't a normal signal, it was inside their heads. The voice carried no emotion, only weight. Why? Harlan forced himself to speak. Because they fear you, he said. Because they don't understand your silence. The warships moved closer. Their black hulls blocked out the last of the stars. The crew gripped their seats, waiting for the blast that would end them. But it never came. Instead, a faint light formed on the lead Terran ship. Like a star flickering to life, the voice returned, quieter this time. Then listen, the flicker grew stronger, and for the first time, the vigilance scanners picked something up. Not weapons, not fleets, but construction. Massive orbital rings hidden beneath the dark field. Arlen's eyes widened. They're building something, he whispered. The structure wrapped around Earth like a black crown, invisible until now. No wonder no one saw it, the engineer said. It was under the fleet all along, the voice echoed again. We are not your enemy, it said slowly, but we are no longer your prey. The words hit harder than any weapon could. Arlen stared at the fleet, and for the first time he understood. Humanity wasn't hiding because it was weak. It was hiding because it was waiting. The Vigilant was allowed to leave. Its engines roared back to life the moment the fleet pulled away. The stars returned, and the shadows faded like smoke. When they returned to the Council, the recordings spread like fire. World after world saw the Terran warships, saw the black ring above Earth, saw the silent strength of a power that hadn't even raised a weapon yet. In the chamber, Serek stood at the center of the storm. Leaders shouted, armies scrambled, whispers grew louder. Admiral Kor simply stared at the recording. They've already chosen their battlefield, he said, and it isn't in our favor. Across the stars, the galaxy felt something it hadn't felt in centuries, real fear, not of war, but of a silence that spoke louder than any threat. Above Earth, the Terran fleet held its position, unmoving, unshaken, a wall of black steel against the stars. And somewhere in that darkness, a quiet voice whispered to no one. They finally see us. The council chamber shook with noise and fear. Dozens of alien leaders shouted over one another. Their voices echoed off the golden walls. The recording of the Terran fleet and the black ring above Earth played again on the massive screen. No one could deny it anymore. Humanity wasn't silent because it was weak. Humanity was silent because it was ready. This is not defense, one senator shouted. This is preparation for war. Another leader slammed the table with trembling hands. If they attack, no one will survive. Council leader Serix stood in the center of it all. His face pale but steady. They have not attacked, he said. His voice wasn't loud, but it was enough to silence the room. They could have destroyed every ship we sent. But they didn't. A young representative leaned forward nervously. Maybe they're waiting for us to make the first move. Admiral Kor rose from his seat. Slow but firm. That's exactly what they're doing, he said. And the moment we do, the sky will burn. A senator from the Thalan Empire shouted back, Then we must strike first. It's the only way to survive. Serix turned sharply. And die faster? He snapped. The Thalan senator froze. Serix took a breath. We are not dealing with a small threat, he said. We are dealing with something that spent decades preparing in silence while we mocked them. His voice softened slightly. They didn't build that fleet overnight, far away, in a hidden communications bunker deep in the Council's military sector. Two officers stared at a blinking red signal. It was faint but clear, a broadcast from Earth. It's them, one officer whispered. The other leaned closer. Play it. The signal cracked with static for a few seconds. And then a single voice spoke, calm and steady. We hear you, it said. We always did. The officers looked at each other, stunned. The voice continued. Your fleets crossed our borders again and again. We warned you. We let you live. A chill ran through the room. The message wasn't shouted. It was quiet, too quiet. You saw the fleet, the voice said. You saw the ring, but you still don't understand. The audio glitched for a second, and then the words came sharper. This is not about war. It's about balance. Back in the council chamber, the broadcast was now playing on every screen. Leaders stared in silence. The voice was human but carried something else. Power, calm, and patience. "We watched your ships," the voice continued. "We watched your debates. We waited for you to see. You've spent years calling us weak," the Thaln senator muttered under his breath. "We were fools." Then came the part no one expected. The voice said, "We are not expanding. We are not attacking. But if a single weapon is fired toward Earth again, we will not speak twice." A faint hum followed. And then a single image appeared, a massive Terran warship emerging from the Black Ring. It dwarfed every alien ship in known history. "We built this not for conquest," the voice said, "but to remind the galaxy we are still here." Admiral Kor leaned forward slowly, whispering to Serix, "They're not asking." Serix nodded. "They're warning." The chamber was quiet now. No one shouted anymore, no one mocked. The balance of power had shifted without a single shot fired. The fear wasn't of war, it was of how easily humanity could win it. Far away, in the Terran command ship, a woman stood at the center of the dark bridge. Her uniform bore no rank, only a symbol, an old flag from Earth. "They heard it?" she asked softly. A voice from the shadows answered, "Every world." She nodded slowly. "Good." Her eyes turned toward the stars outside. "Then they'll stop pretending." In the council's war room, some argued to surrender completely, others to hide. But the strongest voices called for peace, for the first time in generations. The galaxy wasn't laughing at humanity, it was listening. "This changes everything," a diplomat whispered. Admiral Kor looked at the screen, where the Terran fleet floated like a storm. "No," he said, "this reveals what was always true." And out there, above the blue planet, the Terran fleet didn't move. It didn't need to. Its silence was louder than any weapon. Its shadows stretched across the stars. And the galaxy understood that the quiet voice from Earth was not a plea. It was a promise. Humanity wasn't asking to be left alone. Humanity was telling the galaxy where the line was, and no one was brave enough to cross it anymore. The night sky above Earth was quiet, but every star in the galaxy felt that silence like a blade pressed against its throat. No fleet dared to cross the Terran border anymore. No senator dared to call humans weak. The entire galaxy was holding its breath, waiting to see what came next inside the council chamber. Every leader sat stiff in their seats. The recording of the human message had been played 100 times, yet it still sent a chill through the room. Council leader Serix looked older now. His hands were tight against the table, his eyes fixed on the hologram of the Terran fleet. "We built empires for centuries," he said softly, "but they built something else." Admiral Kor's voice was low but clear. "They built patience." A senator from the Thaln Empire shifted nervously. "So what now?" he asked. "Do we live under their shadow forever?" Kor turned his head slowly. "Better their shadow than their fire." At that same moment, in the border region between council space and Earth's silence, a signal lit up. It was faint at first, then grew stronger. The communication officer shouted, "Something is moving." A dozen screens flickered, showing a line of warships breaking formation. Not alien warships, Terran ones. They were leaving orbit, moving outward. "They're advancing," the officer whispered. Panic spread fast. Leaders shouted orders. Diplomats screamed. Military officers ran to war rooms. Serix raised his voice above the chaos. "Hold your fire," he said. "Do not provoke them." The Thaln senator slammed his hand down. "They're coming for us." Serix's eyes narrowed. If they wanted war, there wouldn't be time for this conversation out in space. The Black Fleet moved like a single living creature. No gaps, no sound, only precision. At the head of the formation was the Terran flagship, larger than any vessel ever built. Its engines burned with soft blue light, quiet but terrifying, on the bridge. The same woman who had sent the warning stood calmly. Her second-in-command approached. "Council fleets are on alert," he said. "Should we change course?" She shook her head slowly. No, let them see. Back at the council chamber, the tension was thick enough to choke. They're heading straight for the central border, a commander reported. Admiral Kor folded his arms. They're showing strength. Syrinx stared at the map. Or they're delivering a message. Suddenly, the entire chamber went dark. Every system shut down. A single image filled every screen across the galaxy. It wasn't an attack, it was a broadcast. A star map lit up, showing the Terran fleet moving through neutral space without firing a single shot. A voice followed, the same calm human voice from before. "You've feared what we might do," it said. "Now you will see what we choose to do." Every leader leaned forward as the voice continued. "We are not here to conquer," it said. "We are here to remind you that power is not owned, it is earned." The map zoomed out, showing dozens of Terran ships stopping in the dead zone between the empires. "This will be our border," the voice declared. "We do not seek your worlds, but we will not kneel to your council." In the chamber, silence spread like smoke. No one moved, no one spoke. The Thalan senator finally whispered, "They're claiming neutral space." Admiral Kor let out a long breath. "They're building their own order." Syrinx turned his gaze toward the stars. "And they can do it without war." On the Terran flagship, the woman gave her next order. "Deploy the shields." Massive energy fields bloomed like silent storms, locking the entire Terran zone into a fortress no enemy could penetrate. The fleet didn't aim its weapons. It didn't need to. Their silence spoke louder than any roar. Throughout the galaxy, worlds watched in shock. Some feared, some admired, but none dared to challenge. Messages poured into the council chamber, some calling for peace, others for surrender. For the first time, humanity had spoken clearly, and the galaxy had no choice but to listen. Syrinx stood slowly. "This isn't the beginning of a war," he said, his voice carrying through the room. "It's the beginning of a new balance." Admiral Kor nodded. "And we're not the ones holding the balance anymore." Out in the stars, the Terran fleet held its line, silent and unshaken. The dark ships floated like iron statues against the black. Humanity had never needed to shout. Their strength was written in the silence they left behind. And as the galaxy watched, it finally understood the truth. Earth had never disappeared. Earth had been waiting, and now the waiting was over.